Welcome to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Post-Week 11, still going, by the way. The invites to the postseason party are starting to be sent out, and the man tasked with setting the seeding chart. That celebration is why we are here over the next hour. It is, and by the way, because it is the holiday season, I would like for all of you to check out his book, Game On, Dressing Deer and Finding Pheasant for Daily Dining Delights. Dan Hanzus, the old Zeuser.
What a tip for the audience right off the bat. And
right.
Money, let me ask you a question. What do you think about the Eagles? And I don't mean the scuffling football team.
Well, I hate the Eagles, man. And there's a word I'm leaving out there. We'll get into that a little bit later. In the meantime, let's get a look at numbers 1 through 8. There they are. Still atop the power rankings with one loss. They needed another bout of Mahomes magic to knock off and avoid being swept by the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, the Steeler fans are going to be hot. Explain yourself, Dan Hanzus. The Chiefs retain the top spot. Top of the pops.
I proudly keep the Chiefs. I don't know why I'd be proud about it, but the Chiefs are still the number one team in the league. And don't give me the Steelers haven't lost yet, and the Chiefs barely beat the Raiders. So what does that say about the Chiefs? It says the Chiefs are great because the Raiders are a very good team, and they went in primetime to Vegas and went toe-to-toe in a game where Derek Carr was absolutely locked in and gave that defense all sorts of trouble, and it still didn't matter because Patrick Mahomes is on the Chiefs. And I don't want to be reductive, Money, but I can't say it any other way that Mahomes is the difference between every other team in the league, and that's why in the Steelers, I hope the Steelers and Chiefs play in the AFC title game. Would be incredible. I'd still pick the Chiefs for that reason.
So here's why, and look, you know my position. I have maintained that as well. I echo that sentiment. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he loses a game. However, I think we're starting to see an issue with the Chiefs defense, and I think it is overlooked because they have Patrick Mahomes. And if they should meet in the AFC Championship game, you're talking about a Steelers team that's going to get a free pass in the first round as long as they hold up their end of the bargain, don't lose a game. Even if the Chiefs win out, they've got that one loss. Steelers will be the only team that get a bye, number one. Number two, they gave you and understand this. The Raiders are built specifically to beat the Chiefs. They are built in their image, right? Henry Ruggs is Tyreek Hill. We mentioned this last week. Waller is Kelsey. They have that big offensive line. Well, guess what? The Steelers have a great offensive line. They've got weapons to contend with on the outside like Juju Smith. We see what Claypool's turned into. And guess what? They have a defense. They have arguably the best defense in the league. So you combine the bye with the most dominant unit on the field, that defense, and an offense that can maybe trade punches. I think I'm going to move the Steelers up a notch.
Oh, so you're abandoning me. That's not cool. And don't take this as a slight Steelers fan. I love the Steelers. I just think what we're seeing with Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid offense is something that is special and different, and that's why, to me, they're still the team, and they're the defending champions for what that's worth.
And I put it this way. Let me button it with this: if either the Steelers or the Chiefs got the ball with under 2 minutes and a score needed, do you have any doubt that either of them would score?
No, you said Steefs, so now I can only think about a team that was combined, the Pittsburgh and Chiefs as one team, and that would be amazing.
We'll leave it there. All right, we'll leave it there. Let's get to the Saints, your number one team in the NFC at number 3.
Yeah, this one's easy for me, and while the top 3 in general is very easy for me. These are the 3 best teams in the league. You could put them in whatever order you want, but this is the big 3. And while everyone has been obsessing all season long, really, about the quarterback situation in New Orleans. First it was Drew Brees is old, he can't make the throws, and then he got hurt, and then we were getting all excited about Jameis Winston, and then it turned out to be Taysom Hill, and then what he did on Sunday, which was pretty good. I wasn't blown away, but he was fine, Taysom Hill. The real story for the Saints is a defense that is going off right now, and it's been that way. First 5 weeks of the season, they were a train wreck. They were allowing 30 points a game, but the last 5 games, they lead football. They're averaging points allowed 14.4 over the last 5 games. They sacked Matt Ryan 8 times and picked him off 2 other times on Sunday. They are totally locked in, and that's why they're as good as they are.
I thought Taysom Hill put considerable pressure on the Falcons defense. Look, I think what people don't realize is how big he is and what a load he is to deal with. You know, it's weird, right? Because it's a quarterback who uses his ability to run and his physical nature when he runs the ball, the ability to break tackles, to truck linebackers and safeties to set up the pass. Was this the ugliest pass by a quarterback in the NFL this season?
Yes.
Yes. But it was still a completion, and he was still able to make some on-time throws like this, leading his receivers on critical third downs. And we'll get into this with the Rams, and I know we're going to talk about them next, but I'll just point out, people always want to use it as a slight. Oh, well, he's got Sean Payton. Oh, well, they have Andy Reid. Well, they have Sean McVay. Yeah, they do. And that's what makes a quarterback better. When you have Taysom Hill plus a week to prepare with Sean Payton, that's going to be a formidable offense. And you already said it. They're the best defense in the NFC. I think there's now a gap between the Saints because I don't want to say considerable, but I think it's a pretty healthy gap between 3 and 4. And at 4, Dan, you got the Rams.
Yeah, and I really struggled. I'll pull back the old power rankings curtain here.
Here we go.
The night before today's taping, I was staring at the Excel spreadsheet where I have the rankings, and I said 1 makes sense to me, 2 makes sense to me, 3 makes sense to me, and then 4 through 12 was a burden and something that I struggled with. I couldn't figure out, especially 4. It's almost like, and this doesn't make sense, but it's almost like there's a missing NFL team out there somewhere, like the London Crusaders or something that should be number 4.
Like the Chiefs.
But we don't have that. So I put the Rams there because of what we saw on Monday night, and in general, the big story against Los Angeles money, as you know, with their hot start was, well, who'd they beat? They swept the NFC East. They beat up bad teams and then lost to good teams. Well, over the course of the last 8 days, they beat the Seahawks, stifling that offense, and then made Tom Brady look like a 50-year-old man on Monday night. So I'm buying in on the Rams. I don't know if they're the 4th best team in the league, but that's where they are this week.
Well, this is going to upset the Ram fans. I still think the Seahawks are better, and I know they beat them head-to-head, but to me, that was just such an outlier game for Russell Wilson. How many 0 touchdown, 2 interception games, dropping his eyes, looking totally lost, have we ever seen from Russell Wilson?
But you got to credit the Rams for that money. You got to credit what they're able to do.
I do credit them. And look, the interior of that line is a nightmare to deal with. But again, it's not like it's changed that dramatically. Is it better? Yeah, it's better. Brandon Staley's done a great job, but Russell Wilson's seen that before. He's seen Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers before. He's seen a good secondary. Remember, they had Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters before. It's not like he hasn't seen a really good Rams defense. To me, he was just off. And if you tell me that and look, the Seahawks have an easy schedule moving forward. I think they're still going to end up winning the division just based on that schedule. If you tell me it's a home game between these two teams for the 3rd time of the season, and I get Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett to lead the way, and you get Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and I guess it would be, I don't know, Cooper Kupp or Jared Goff, I'll just take the Seahawks. To me, that's just a 3rd meeting head-to-head. Which team are you going to take? I'm going to take the Seahawks.
I mean, to my point about 4 through 12 and the gridlock we have here, I think that's a coin flip game. But I move the Seahawks into the top 10. So I agree with you, and I think the schedule sets up well. They have a very good chance to win this division. But do I trust their defense? I know they've been better with Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams back. Yeah. But do I trust them in a big spot not to get lit up? I don't, not yet.
Again, they ended up, remember this. Okay, I'll put a button on it with this. As we continue to do a little back and forth, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to put a button on that button. So Russell Wilson in that game,
that creep can roll,
had a 57 passer rating. He has not had a 57 passer rating in a game in 5 years, and it was a 1-score game, and they had a chance to tie it up in the final possession. I think that just kind of speaks to what an outlier that contest was, even though the defense was able to frustrate him to that degree. That they still had a chance to pull it out.
My final take is I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, unfortunately, I can't button that. When we return, there's the Q code. Click that so you can see the post. How you like that? It's time to trust the Titans. Week 11 was a reminder of their run to the the AFC Championship last year. Are we buying recidivism? A repeat feat of that feat. back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. There it is at number 9, the Seattle Seahawks, the team that I suggested ought to be all the way up at number 4, followed by, coming off that big win over the Packers, Indianapolis Colts. But Zeuser, let's get things started there at number 11. Speaking of big wins, the Tennessee Titans remind, after dancing all over a logo at midfield, that they dispatched of the Ravens in the divisional round in 2019, and they did it again.
That had to feel good because there's a lot of bad blood between the Titans and Ravens, and you saw how hot it was before the game started to come back against Baltimore, a game where you trailed by 11 points. You get that huge touchdown reception, A.J. Brown running through 3 Ravens defenders, and then on top of it all, you get the stop in overtime, and then Derrick Henry. And, I loved about the run when they show the telestrator money. Henry actually ran in the shape of an L. He literally gave the Ravens an L on his way to the end zone. So a beautiful game for the Titans, who they haven't looked like a flawless team this season, but at the same time, they win these big games, and they're going to be playoff ready. So to me, that deserves a spot right near the top 10.
Well, I always like teams that are different than everybody else, right? Because it just presents a unique, challenge for the opponent, the opposing. And in this case, it's the opposing defense. And okay, how do you game plan for Derrick Henry? How do you game plan for A.J. Brown? I think you forget about how big Jonnu Smith is. Corey Davis is freaking giant. It just happens when he's standing next to A.J. Brown. He doesn't look it. But if you're down on the field, Corey Davis 6'3". A.J. Brown is... that just kind of magnifies the size of DK Metcalf when you see that photo of those two next to each other, and when you see A.J. Brown up close. So I love it. However, their defense is still an issue. Yes. Remember that, and yes, I get it. They held did they really hold the Ravens to 1-4 in the red zone, or did the Ravens just fall apart at that part of the field? Because remember, they're down Ronnie Stanley, Yander retires, Skura gets demoted. Like, that whole offensive line is a mess. Defensively, no Calais Campbell. Patrick Queen is kind of going through that rookie sort of lull right now. So I'm not sure, but the good news is the Titans are going to be able to tell us because they got a gnarly schedule coming up here over the next couple, starting with, a Thanksgiving Day tilt against the Colts. And if the Colts win, they sweep the division, and that's pretty much okay. Well, now you're fighting for one of those wild card spots.
Yeah, and I think there has been talk about Ryan Tannehill, and he's not playing as well as he was earlier in the season. And you're right, statistically, that backs it up. But their schedule has been very tough, and I think he still delivers you a nice floor every game, whether you're a fantasy player or you're the Titans needing points on a given Sunday or in primetime. So I don't put too much stock into Tannehill's numbers dipping a little bit. I think they'll come back up when the opponents get more easy to defeat. And that's just my opinion, man.
They have to win the next two. It's at Indianapolis. They can't get swept by the Colts, and they got to knock off a Browns. I think two teams that you would feel you feel the same about. So, and just kind of let them duke it out and figure out which one of those two comes out ahead there. Let's go to the Dolphins. They're at number 15. They were the talk of the town after they humiliated the Chargers, used special teams and defense, also humiliated the Rams. They really took care of the city of Los Angeles there. But they're the big misstep, a huge misstep in Denver.
Yeah, and it didn't feel too sustainable. Dolphins fans were getting on me last week for not moving him into the top 10, but I thought the big defensive splash plays and special teams splash plays were not repeatable, and then you might end up in a situation where your rookie quarterback struggles. What really shocked me, though, is not that Tua struggled, because that's going to happen. It's that Brian Flores benched him. And I just thought it was surprising. I thought it was a little disappointing because I thought Flores had a good look at how this situation should be playing out. But I think that 5-game winning streak that was snapped on Sunday maybe messed with Flores' head a little bit, and now has put him in a situation where he's caught in between trying to win and trying to develop a rookie.
I want to preface this by saying it's not like I'm sitting here saying, hey, Brian Flores, sooner or later you're going to have to face the fact that you're a moron. That is not what I'm saying. He's a fantastic coach. I think everybody knows that. Look what he did with the Dolphins last year and what he's done this year. But this is like, what are you doing? Why are you pulling Tua? What is it that you're trying to get done here? Because you know what Ryan Fitzpatrick does. Bradley Chubb is lighting up your offensive line all game long. The O-line is leaky. It didn't matter if it was Flowers or Austin Jackson, who's on the left. I mean, every part of that offensive line got absolutely dusted. And to kind of pin that on Tua by demoting him, and he could have got out of it. He just could have said in the postgame, hey, he was getting hit, and he was getting hit hard, and we got to be careful. And I think, it just kind of wasn't working out, and he was taking a lot of shots, so we went with Fitz. No, he was like, I felt like the team needed a spark. It just doesn't make any sense. Fitz is not winning you a playoff game. Fitz is not winning you the division. And you got to let Tua figure it out.
Exactly.
Let him figure out how to get away from Bradley Chubb. Let him work through it like what Justin Herbert did after throwing a pick early in games and rebounds and leads his team to leads the Chargers to take leads in the second half, even though their defense would give up those leads and lose games. But that's what you do. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And I think that perhaps Tua might struggle as a result of this. A guy that's looking over his shoulder every time he throws an errant pass. I think it could have some wide-ranging effects for the Dolphins. We could be completely wrong, but it just didn't make sense to me either, Money.
Yeah, I mean, it just sends a bad message to your team, that you don't trust that guy to dig out of his own hole. It's unfortunate. All right, up next, our mystery guest pops on Power Rankings, and we're told we all need to saddle up for a conversation and ride at the crossroads of America.
Get your Thanksgiving Day started at 10 a.m. Eastern with NFL Game Day Morning.
I'm a jive turkey.
The Steelers look to get one step closer to an AFC North title, but the Ravens may have other ideas. We'll break down what Pittsburgh needs to do to complete the season sweep. And it's rare that one person can uplift an entire city, but that's exactly what Ravens superfan Mo Gaba did.
With the 123rd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
You don't want to miss his inspiring story. And speaking of inspiring stories, Kurt Warner sits down with Washington quarterback Alex Smith as he prepares to face Dallas. It's all ahead on NFL Game Day Morning, Thanksgiving Day at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Well, as we welcome you back to Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer, one of us is still smarting from that Seahawks-Rams tete-a-tete that we had in the opening block. So you know what we do, Dan, when things get a little tense around here? We like to separate the two of us.
Need to.
Put somebody between the two so we can continue this program for the remainder of the hour. You know how it goes. You see the logos rolling around there. You say stop. and we got ourselves a mystery guest for the people to enjoy.
Yeah, and I don't think long term this is sustainable. Just throw in this segment to keep us from killing each other. Eventually, it's going to break through, but let's stay focused right now.
Okay.
No whammies, no whammies, no whammies, and stop!
Oh, look who's back. So here's the good news. One of the three faces on this screen is a celebrated former professional athlete. One of the faces on the screen is immensely adored and respected by their peers. And the other two, well, they just get emails that say, hey, monkey, start dancing. And dance, we do. It is Stacey Dales.
Legend.
Back on Power Rankings. Stacey,
So
you're on to talk
Colts. You're telling me I'm in good company. You're telling me I'm in good company.
You have raised the profile of the program considerably by joining us.
You are the good company, Stacey. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. We're just along for the ride. You're the trailer. You're the truck. We're the trailer is what this segment is here. You were in Indianapolis. You watched Colts Packers. Let's start with Phillip Rivers and how the Colts are feeling about that $25 million investment.
Feeling really good about Phillip Rivers. I mean, people on the outside will continue to question him, you guys. Frank Reich, talking to him, I've had the Colts, I don't know how many weeks now, 3 or 4 through the course of this season. He loves the accuracy. I think he made some plays in this game that were substantial. I think he has command of the offense. And I like the way that they strategize with all the pieces they have. I mean, when you think about the use of Jacoby Brissett, that package, we saw Jacoby come in against these Packers. They weren't prepared for it. We haven't seen that package. That was a design package to use Brissett as he and Rivers sort of swapped off. I love that play right there. But, you're down, what was it, 14 or something at the half, right? Yeah. You come into the second half, you go, 20-3 in the second half, and you force 4 turnovers. So while Phillip Rivers has continued to build with this offense, and the rookies are a big part of that, okay, that's important. Jonathan Taylor had just under 100 rush yards on the ground. That was significant. It was a breakout game for the rookie. And then, of course, Michael Pittman, who's so strong, had the injury a few weeks ago. The kicker, Rodrigo Blankenship. I mean, come on.
Love that dude.
Right?
I'll join you.
Love the guy.
Love everything about him.
Dynamic. He wins the game with the kick. And then Julian Blackmon, you guys defensively, was the one who forced that fumble on Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the overtime period. And by the way, Darius Leonard said this kid should be talked about in the national discussion because he has come on and working alongside a guy like Darius Leonard, you're going to get better. So I was impressed from, the first half to the second half, the adjustments they made, and really the way they finished the game.
Well, Stacey, this all kind of goes back to Chris Ballard, the GM here, because entering last season, they needed that infusion of talent. They got it with a really good rookie class. They needed a quarterback that they could trust more than Jacoby Brissett. They got Phillip Rivers. And then they needed someone on the line, on the defensive side of things, to really get them more sound on the interior. And then they went out and got DeForest Buckner, and that has been a huge pickup for them.
Great point. Maybe the biggest pickup for any team this season. When you mentioned Chris Ballard, he is a guru at developing personnel. We've seen it with this roster. Think about players like Rock Yassin, but DeForest Buckner, they targeted him, guys, kind of fell into their lap, the deal did in the offseason, and almost shocked Ballard, I think, having spoken to him about it. But he believes that the defensive front, and particularly up the middle, is the engine that drives the defense. So he goes out and gets DeForest Buckner, who played in a Super Bowl the season before. And you guys both saw him chase down Aaron Rodgers, right? With the ankle tackle.
Oh, yeah.
How many DTs can do that? I mean, maybe Donald, right? We talk about. So
that's probably it.
Yeah. So it just really a huge addition to this team, and a great leader to boot.
I know there was just the one big fumble, but just kind of, we all cover the draft and the combine, and we know what the rap was on Jonathan Taylor coming in. Supreme athlete, the stats are there, but there's some ball security issues when it comes to the running game. Felt like Marlon Mack was the guy, and then everyone else was going to support him. Kind of where are they at in that rotation, and where are they at with Taylor as the playoffs approach, Stacey, and these games take on, more importance?
Well, I mentioned, a breakout performance for Jonathan Taylor. This gives tremendous confidence. I think, for any rookie in the National Football League, this has been a really difficult, developmental year because of the pandemic. And the Colts have stuck with it. They came out, and especially in the second half, made a concerted effort to run the football. We all thought Marlon Mack would be, the bell cow for this team, but they're very pleased with Nyheim Hines. They like their stable all, as a unit. And I think they continue to feed Jonathan Taylor because of the confidence that he derives from a game like this. But when you have an offensive line like this, guys, I don't know about you. I think it is the best offensive line in football. There are a few players that do what Quentin Nelson does at the guard position. And so, now that they've figured this thing out, what comes to mind? I think about a guy like Justin Jefferson, right, with the Vikings.
Right.
Mike Zimmer talked about, because I had their game last week, just the developmental process through this pandemic, and now the light has gone off for him. Well, I see players like Jonathan Taylor, and that light is gone off, flickering, and now it's kind of on.
Right. Michael Pittman, too.
Yeah.
Now, Stacey, I have to say, this segment has me thinking that I don't have the Colts high enough in the power rankings. And when you can do that, it's been a huge segment for Dales in a big spot.
Where do you have him? 8? Is it 8?
I got him at 10. I got him at 10.
Yeah, well, that's because I have him at 8th or 7th, somewhere in that landing spot.
There's only one power ranking, Stacey. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I would have liked it if Stacey leaned over and hold on, I have them at 8.
Well, no, my power rankings are so funny because if you look at my page, I'm I have these 3 right at the top, somewhere here if I can, and then look at this jumble.
I see.
Look at this. Look at this jumble.
See, I'm with you, Stacey. It's tough outside that top 3.
There we go.
Yeah, listen, we watched Tampa Bay and Tom Brady sort of melt down, right, on Monday Night Football, and now where do the Bucs stand? I mean, this season is going to go down to the wire, I believe. So we'll see.
Well, Stacey, we appreciate it. Second time you've been on, and it is always a celebration of talent for you and the two of us again. We're just right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right, here we go. 17 through 24, our third quadrant. Kind of a couple teams in there still hoping they got a shot to maybe make a playoff run if some of the teams in front of them stumble. Not going to be easy, though. It's led by the Chargers and ended by the Houstons as your bookends with that big victory over the Patriots.
Yeah, and the Chargers are by far the best 3-7 team in the league. That's why I have them at 17, despite that record. You are the voice of the Chargers, money, and I think that breeds optimism. There was some crazy talk before we came on today. I can't let you just say it off camera. Tell the people.
Oh, that's how it's going to be, huh? All right. So much for keeping things off the air that were set off the air. If that's the game we're going to play, you're entering a world of pain. Here's what I would say. They're getting healthy, right? So Herbert has already raised his hand. I think you have a very tough time saying he's not a top 10 quarterback in this league, maybe higher. Keenan Allen and he have got something special going on. Look at their schedule. This is the big one this week, right? If they can knock off the Bills, after the Bills, it kind of gets a little bit easier. They still have to play the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Chiefs. The Chiefs will be the last week of the season, so who knows if they can't improve their stock, whether or not they're going to play everybody or rest them because they may have to play in the wild card round. But Chris Harris may come back this week. And how about Austin Eckler? I think we forget how important Austin Eckler is to this offense because they have no running game right now. And this is Eckler climbing under 405 pounds on that hammy that he blew out, and you see what it says right there in the last line. Under 405 pounds, throwing it around like it's a $135. The only thing to do next is play. And when you add a back of his talent and just the nightmare matchups he creates for defenses, I think that takes the offense to the next level. And as opposed to scoring 24 to 28 a game, you're probably going to find yourself in that 30-plus range. You get Harris back. Bosa is now back and healthy and had the 2 weeks off to get rested. I think there's reason to say this is not an impossible task with starting with the Bills. They get the Falcons, they get the Patriots, and all 3 divisional opponents.
Are you saying that you believe the Los Angeles Chargers, who are the same as the San Diego Chargers, and we know about the Chargers, are going to win out?
The story ends.
And at no point is Lucy going to rip the ball away from the voice of the Chargers and the rest of the team and the fans? It's happening, money, at least twice. I'm sorry.
So follow me here. Let's say they win out and 9-7 doesn't get them in. That would then be that would be the ultimate Charger thing, right? When you think back to a Mike Bagsley missed field goal at the end of regulation against the Saints, the way they let that game get away against the Broncos up 24-3 after allowing 60 yards in the first half. Two, not one, but two passes that were caught in the end zone against the Raiders, but dropped as the receiver went to the ground, and they missed the postseason by a game.
Well, how about this? You win in week 17, and you lose to Tyler Thigpen
the Chiefs backups.
And the Chiefs in week 17. I know Tyler Thigpen's not there anymore.
So many machinations we can create here. A lot of strands in the old duder's head. All right, up next, the Washington football team won. The Cowboys conquered. The Eagles, Wentz whiffed and Peterson's out, and will negotiate the power rankings of the amoeba-like NFC East. Back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. And you see here 25 through 32. And 3 of those 8 teams right there, 25, 27, 28, they are still in serious contention for a playoff spot, Bull Zeuser. The Giants just ahead of the Cowboys there, as we saw them in their third quadrant. So I guess it's not hard for me to discern which of the 4 teams you are now nominating to win the NFC East.
No, I mean, it actually doesn't check out. I have the Giants ahead of the Cowboys, but I'm into the Cowboys now. This division,
hey, whatever, man.
Embrace the chaos at this point in the NFC East, because finally what we saw in Week 11 was what I thought the Cowboys offense was going to look like after Dak Prescott went out with that terrible injury. Andy Dalton is a pretty good quarterback. He's not great, but he's not bad. He's better than average. And with this level of skill talent around him, once he gets comfortable and gets into the game plan and finds his zone, they're going to score points every week. I don't think it's an aberration what happened in Minnesota. I think this is a team that can score 27 to 30 points a week going forward. And when you have something that you do well, and for the Cowboys it will be scoring points, that's something that most teams in the NFC East don't have the ability to do. So I'm all in on the Cowboys now. Got to win on Thursday, though. You're going to make me look super dumb.
Well, there you go. I'm going to make you look super dumb because I'm going to take the other sideline in that Thanksgiving Day game.
This aggression will not stand, by the way. This aggression will not stand.
This is fantastic. And this, by the way, trying to figure out who's going to win the NFC East is not like bowling. There are no rules. I love that you took the Eagles and you are now on to the Cowboys. I originally had the Giants like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm on to the Washington football team.
You're back with them.
I'm back with them because of that defensive line, and we saw it again against the Bengals, and I know that is one of the worst offensive lines, and I hate even saying the word Bengals because it makes you think about the way it ended for Joe Burrow. But this is the best unit in the division, the defensive front of the Washington football team, and all you need is 6 wins. That's my belief. 6 will get you the NFC East crown, and I got a win on Thursday as they sweep the Cowboys, and I got a win over Carolina and a win over Philly. And the Washington football team is in. How do you like that, huh?
Just your opinion, man. Just your opinion.
The division. The NFC East is so dominant, and this conversation is so compelling. Let's keep it going. Time for Power Moves, presented by Energizer. Her calculus clears up confusion from your football considerations. She's the preeminent predictive analyst, and she's here to offer up insight on the conversational Zeuser that we just concluded. It's Cynthia Freeland. Cynthia, who wins the NFC East?
Surprisingly, I still have the Eagles. Why? Their defensive front is so strong. I know. I understand. It's crazy. Nobody wants to win this division. I think that's really what's going on here. They want to look at your rankings. They're just saying, I'm going to switch it to next time. But ultimately, it's their defensive front that gives them the slight edge and the capability to have a strong run game. It's not showing up in every single game. However, it's still there. So the math points to the Eagles.
Listen, Cynthia, this is my whole problem with math, and this is why when I got a 39 in my state-mandated test back in junior year of high school, I didn't have any issues with that ultimately because it's wrong sometimes, math. You can't trust math, and a Carson Wentz team cannot be a favorite in the year 2020. I don't care what the machine says.
Maybe math can't trust you.
Oh, see, that was low, and that was unnecessary.
That was an interesting retort. I didn't see that coming. Let me push back as well, Cynthia, just a tiny bit. You said defensive front, but I would assume your math says that the Washington defensive front is considerably better than the Eagles. So what is it about that unit that has you leaning on that team when the Washington football team's unit is considerably better?
Well, there's a few things that really tip the scales. The first is the fact that they have an easier schedule, they being the Eagles. Slightly easier schedule means slightly big difference in terms of math, right? So, and then the second one is ultimately that we've seen more from Carson Wentz. I know we've seen some bad too, but we know for sure kind of that they can get it going with those tight ends. So just a teeny bit different and a big schedule change, or a teeny bit with the schedule too, makes a big change.
All right, so let's go from east to west. I guess the opposite. No, it is the path of the sun. Rises in the east, sets in the west. The NFC West division, and your math says which team comes out ahead there?
The Seattle Seahawks are still on top. I know we just watched the Rams beat the Bucs. However, it is still the Seahawks and Russell Wilson that takes the best division in football. The interesting part about the Seahawks is how big of a difference Russell Wilson makes for them. Yes, we have to see their defense play better in order for them to have a real shot at winning the Super Bowl. But Russell Wilson right now has just about the same win share as Patrick Mahomes, who leads the league in win share.
Oh, that sounds like a conversation that was made a little bit earlier, right, Dan? Does that sound familiar when you and I went back and forth with the Rams and the Seahawks? Look who's on my side. Math is on my side.
Well, you know what? The machine, again, is I have my doubts today. That's just the bottom line, Cynthia. No offense.
Now, you were going to – my understanding in the prep here for this conversation, Cynthia, is that the math also says win the division might not be the move.
Yeah, actually – to win the division might be a bad move. In fact, when you look to see the potential for, because you got to play the NFC West again as the wild card. So what we did was kind of project forward. If the Seahawks win the division and they have to host the Cardinals, their win probability is not very high. It's like 53.2, something like that. That is a low number compared to what happens when you see, okay, let's say that they don't win and they ultimately keep going to the next one, right? And they have to play away and go to the Eagles, the presumptive winner of the NFC East in my model. Look what the win total is for Seattle. You want to know what it is?
Team.
5, 8, 9, 58.9.
Right.
Who doesn't want to win a game?
Yeah, if you're not the 1 seed, which it looks like the Saints are going to be the 1 seed, you're going to have to play in the wild card round. So
and also,
why not, I guess.
I guess the Seahawks are undefeated at home as of right now, so maybe this doesn't make as much sense. But in general, home field advantage means very little in 2020. So the idea of getting that big home game in the playoffs isn't what it used to be.
It really matters who's coming to their home to play them more so than the fact that they're at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know, man. I still don't want to climb on a plane and throw on the mask and deal with the buses and all that crud, even without the fans. I think home field still has a little bit of something to add. All right, be sure to get all that sweet slope and symmetry and whatever else sorted out by visiting NFL.com/Freeland. Thank you, Cynthia. When we return, we lean.
Bye, Cindy.
We lean into impact matchups, the 3 games that will produce the biggest moves in next week's rankings. Will you see Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. But Bills Mafia, Raider Nation, get your thumbs ready to rifle off some angry offerings on social media. There's your team. Time for impact matchups. These are 3 games, and I stayed away from the Thanksgiving Day games. So these are 3 Sunday games, Dan, that I think could have the biggest impact on whether a team is jumping, let's say, 3 to 5 spots or sliding 3 to 5 spots. I already talked about the Chargers. I like this Chargers-Bills game just because the Chargers are going to be healthy. It looks like they got a shot to get Eckler and both Chris Harris back. Bosa came back. You see how good that offense has been operating. Justin Herbert's going to be your Pepsi Rookie of the Week for the 7th time in 8 weeks or something like that. And for the Bills, Josh Allen struggled against teams that can get there with 4 and drop 7. And that's what Gus Bradley does. So it's going to be a challenge for him to kind of show that, yeah, I can adapt and I can adjust and play at this MVP level against defenses that have given me fits in the past.
I'm not with you that they could run the table, the Chargers, but I am with you that they are going to give contenders trouble for the rest of the season. And for the Bills, how about sitting with that Hail Murray for 2 straight weeks? I'm sure they're going to come out looking to change the narrative around their team.
Second, I'm going Dolphins Jets, and get ready for this, Dan. I'm gonna give you a little bit of actually no, I'm going Raiders Falcons next. My apologies. I'll get to the Dolphins Jets in a moment, but. Remember, the Raiders, for whatever issues the Raiders defense has been able to create for the Chiefs, they have not been able to do it for anybody else. And we know the Falcons have been able to put up points, unless they're playing the Saints last week. So that's why this one's so compelling to me. If the Raiders, coming off a tough loss and just having to get stung by Patrick Mahomes like so many, they got to shake it off, because I think they got a chance to not only get in, but make some noise if they get in. But this is going to be a big one, because I think it's probably going to take 10 wins to get in. And this is one on the schedule where you circle it and you say you got to win this one. But I know this offense has an opportunity to present some issues for that Raiders D.
Absolutely. If the Raiders are as good as I think they are, which, as the power ranking says, is a top 10 team, you bounce back from that near victory against the Chiefs. You spank a middling Falcons team, and you continue your march toward the playoffs. The Falcons are interesting because they're a team that struggles if you have a good pass rush. Matt Ryan is on pace to be sacked 43 times this season. He got sacked 8 times against the Eagles. He got sacked 8 times last week. But do the Raiders have that ability to make that push?
The answer to that is no. They don't have. They have one of the worst pass rushes. All right, here we go. Dolphins, Jets. How about this? Dan, the Jets are not barren. That cupboard is not empty. Denzel Mims is a load to deal with. And you would assume that they found some stuff in that second half they can carry over to this next game. Now, granted, the Dolphins have arguably the best pair of corners in the league to help negate the Mims-Perriman combo out there. However, the Dolphins, we talked about it. Like, what are you doing in that game against the Broncos in benching Tua? Now he's all of a sudden going to be your starter. You would hope he's able to bounce back and shake it off, just like Herbert did off his worst performance against the Dolphins, able to post nearly 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game against that miserable defense. But the Dolphins better do it, because I'm looking at their schedule right here. They still have Kansas City, New England, Las Vegas, and Buffalo. So they absolutely better win this game if they're going to move past an uncharacteristic loss in Denver, based on what we thought going in.
And they should against the Jets, obviously the only winless team in the league. Maybe there was a bit of a method to Brian Flores' madness, thinking I could sit Tua here, try to steal a win, and then he'll bounce back against a terrible Jets secondary. Maybe it plays out that way. Is Sam Darnold playing? I'd like to see Sam Darnold again before we move forward.
I'll just I'll button it with this real quick. Only 2 teams have gone 0-16. 2 in the history of the league. The Jets are going to find a win out there one of these weeks. Let's go honest assessments. Let's go on. No. Honest assessments. Buccaneers after a miserable showing on Monday night, Dan.
It's time to ask questions. And you wonder, there's always the team that peaks too soon. And a month ago, we all saw the Bucs as the clear NFC favorite. And we're talking about Tom Brady going to another Super Bowl. Well, now how do we feel? Because I thought that they were exposed a little bit by the Rams' defense, which was fast and ferocious and made Brady uncomfortable. And he threw some terrible passes in this game. So I just am a lot less confident in the Bucs than I was 2 weeks ago. There seem to be some issues here.
How about the Ravens at 12?
Another team that does, you would think on paper they should be okay, but then they keep on struggling in these big spots and blowing double-digit leads at home and losing big primetime games. There's something off with the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't know if it gets fixed. They might be just a cut below other teams this season.
All right, still to come after our impact and honest assessments. Zings at the Zeuser, like this one from John Ace Dowie. Your ranking sucked, dude. Like, do you even watch the game? Say what you want.
Not
about
English.
Typing out with Twitter muscles, Dan. At least it's an ethos.
The guy's got no brain, just the body.
All right, back here on Power Rankings, let's get one last bit of content in, and that is constructive criticism. At Dan Hanzus, how are the Colts consistently higher than the Browns when we beat them and without Nick Chubb? Yeah, how about that head-to-head like, a few weeks ago, man?
I really need to see the Browns in a game where the weather conditions aren't terrible and they're against a big-time team. They're the AFC contender that I have not bought in on yet in terms of the playoff picture.
That's just despite your dear friend Mark Sessler, I believe. All right, Dan Hanzus. Balanced is not one of them. Do you realize that you're talking about number one rush offense through first half of the season, top 10 passing attack halfway, number one overall offense halfway? Your cards write-ups are terribly written with no factual basis.
Terribly written and no factual basis. Well, I have an entire editing team at NFL.com. They do incredible work, Ali Bunpari and company. They are factual, brother. They might be terribly written.
Just calling out your stat guys for maybe giving you bad stats or something there.
No.
All right, here we go. From our man PB. Also, this is your weekly reminder that Dan Hanzus still doesn't understand math. Hashtag here we go.
All right. Well, PB, good for you. Hashtag here we go.
I don't know what the
rent-free
response to that is.
All I
do
can
want
say
to
is,
point out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say it's Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I offer you a White Russian.
There you go. Well, you know what? I offer you the
Virgin.
May your turkey stay moist, may your stuffing be firm, may your yams be sugary and buttery, as sugary and buttery as your heart can handle. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you for watching. Oh, yeah.
Cheers.